Hello, hello, hello. I'm Chantel Harris, author of You Invited Us In, How Spirits Entered My Marriage. You can find the book on Amazon. And I made a post on the Ask Me Why platform, and I mentioned how suppression is not healing. Suppression is not healing. And I want to talk about that just a little today to give you some insight because I was that person. I was that person that suppressed. And not only did I suppress, I also repressed. And so there's a difference in the two of suppression and repression. Suppression, psychologists will tell you, suppression is actually hiding your feelings and pushing it so far in your mind, but you're doing that purposely not to have to deal with whatever trauma it is that you're going through. And repression is for it to be a natural reaction that you put that trauma so far behind you that, and you didn't do it on purpose, it just sort of happened. And so one of the things that I realized since doing this platform on molestation, incest, sexual abuse, rape, since I've been doing this platform, God has just been bringing some things back to my memory that I didn't even realize I had happened. I didn't even remember that they had happened. I had totally forgot about it happening. And God has been saying, remember, this happened to you as a child. And remember, when that person did that, you didn't realize it then, but it was abuse. So I was not the person that purposely, there were some things that I did purposely suppress, but there were some things that I'm finding out with counseling and other other forms of healing. In my healing process, I am finding out there's some things that I repressed and I did not even remember or know that they were there. And so I need you to understand that when you are that person, hear me very clearly, when you are that person, the strong person, I call them, the strong man, the strong woman, and you've gone through some sort of trauma, you've gone through it, and you know my focus is sexual abuse, and you've gone through incest, and you've gone through molestation, and you say you're the person, and this is the person that I'm talking to. It happened, and I'm okay. Or you were the person that you went and you tried to talk to your family member about it, or you tried to talk to your husband or your wife about it, and this you're telling them this is what happened to me, but I'm okay. And sometimes what happens is when people don't handle you correctly, when you're finally saying, oh, let me tell my truth, you're not handled correctly. It'll push you back into the shell that you already were in. And so I say to that person, suppression is not healing. You can say, I don't want to talk about it. You can say, I forgot about it. You can try to convince yourself that it doesn't bother you. It's no big deal, but it's not the truth. Suppression, repression, it is not a form of healing. The only way that you properly heal from trauma is dealing with that trauma head on. Telling your truth, telling your truth to a trusted person, going to say, this is what happened to me. I don't care if you're 75 years old. This is what happened to me when I was 5 years old. My father touched me. My grandfather touched me. The pastor touched me. My brother, my uncle, a lady made me do things that were unnatural, because you have women that make young boys do things that little boys shouldn't be doing to a grown woman. No matter what happened, get that trusted person where you can go and tell your truth to, because that person that you see that is strong, that person that you see is always laughing, that person that you see they're like the liveliest person in the room, that person that you see that appears to be strong, 9 times out of 10, those are the people that are hurting the most. I was the strong person. I was the jokester. I was the one that wanted to make everybody happy. But the only thing it was my coping mechanism, and it was the way I coped with all the pain and all the hurt that I was really experiencing internally. And it wasn't until I began to speak, write the book, tell my story, that true healing began. And I can tell the difference in who I am now versus who I was when I was suppressing my truth. When I told my truth, it was a freedom. It was like a load that was lifted off of my shoulder, because I finally was able to tell my truth. And even if you are a victim or now survivor, and you have people that are pointing fingers and don't want to believe you and don't want to believe that, oh, that person could have never done that. The pastor didn't do that. And this person is a great man of God. So you're telling a lie, and yo, don't lie on my pastor, or don't lie on my husband, or don't lie on my uncle. Even if you are the person that is facing that, because that's the biggest thing that causes victims and survivors not to come forward. What causes us not to come forward is the realization that in the community that we're in, they look down on the victim more than they look at the perpetrator. They look at the victim more than they look at the abuser. They will curse out the victim for exposing the abuser before they curse out the abuser for touching the child. And so because we know that that is the kind of community we live in, then we suppress it and we say, we're never going to talk. No one will ever believe me. No one will ever believe that that person did that to me. But now is the season, and I'm telling you to tell your truth. God has been dealing with me on how serious suppressing this is. People are in depression. People are suicidal. People go through so much. I didn't even know how to be properly married because of because of the triggers that I would have during sex, or the triggers I would have during conversations, or my husband talked to me too hard. I'm crying and I'm in tears and I don't know why, but it was all the triggers from the trauma that I had went through that I refused to deal with. So I need you to understand, it is time for you to speak. It is time for you to tell your truth. No longer do you have to be afraid, little girl. No longer do you have to be afraid, little boy. No longer do you have to be afraid, woman. No longer do you have to be afraid, man. Tell and speak your truth, because you speaking your truth, it'll help someone else. And another thing that I want people to understand, don't expose victims and then just you get them to tell their story and then you just leave them there. Because once you get them to expose themselves and tell their story, they have to deal with the aftermath of people pointing fingers. They have to deal with the aftermath of people calling them liars. You're doing it for likes, and you're doing it for attention, or you're doing it for whatever reason that you're doing it for. But those victims are left holding the bag. They're left saying, okay, now I've exposed this. What do I do now? And so that is why on my platform, Ask Me Why, we have therapists in place. We have spiritual leaders in place, so that when people tell their truth, there's someone to help. I'm there. As a leader, I'm there. I'm there to help. I'm there to talk you through it. But I also have some licensed therapists that are like, just let me know, woman of God, when I need to talk to someone, and I'm here for them. So you don't just expose victims and then everybody point fingers, some agreeing, some disagreeing because you got a platform. No, make sure that they have a team of help, someone that can help maneuver them through telling their truth and exposing someone and coming out. We're not just exposing people for likes, but this is about their healing process. So I want you to always remember, if you're watching this now, healing is not suppression. You in this season, heal for yourself. Heal for your children. Heal for your spouse. Heal for the little girl and the little boy that needs to hear your story so they too can come out of depression. They can come out of being suicidal, homicidal, whatever it is that they have, the brokenness, the need to control their kids and control every narrative and making the child miserable because of what they went through. They don't want it to happen. It's time for you to be free for real and come out. Let your healing process be intentional. Stop suppressing it, because all you're doing, they're doing studies now that suppression and keeping these things internally, you're keeping it internally, but it's coming out of your body as depression. You're keeping it on the inside, but it's coming out as cancers. You're keeping depression on the inside, but it's coming out in different diseases. These things, even if you don't say them out of your mouth, they begin to manifest in your body. So it's time for you to come out. It's time for you to be free. And it's time for you, if you're not the victim, it's time for you to ask someone else that may be going through something that you see. It's time for you to ask them why. Let's make asking people why a norm. Let's make it normal in our community. And again, suppression is not healing. Heal for real. Be free for real. Thank you.